Hello, and welcome to our continuing series of Better Business interviews. Better businesses are those that are driven by purpose to use business as a force for good, for positive change, for people and planet. Throughout this series, we are chatting with key people in these organisations and finding out why they do what they do. This week, I've been joined by Jeff Seckendorf from CoachMeStrong. CoachMeStrong is the latest of Jeff's business ventures, having been born out of a COVID-19 need, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Jeff Seckendorf is a teacher slash trainer slash coach at the core, and I don't mean the muscle. He rose out of the entertainment industry where he taught, produced and directed commercials, feature films, TV, movies and music videos, then focusing on flexing the training muscle. Sorry for all the puns, Jeff.
No, I'm good for that. That's okay.
He started UTD Scuba Diving, a global scuba training and certification agency. And now alongside that, Jeff uses his training cycle model to address an urgent need which arose during the pandemic. So welcome to the show from sunny San Diego.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, well, it's a bit cold here.
We were just talking about that.
We're both in summer, and it's not fair that you just have this nice constant temperature on sunny days.
Well, you know, I chose it, so there you go.
So, I mean, having done my little bit of research, I always kind of have that elephant in the room question, Jeff, that I like to ask our guests. And for you and your filmmaking background, I'm intrigued to ask: is Hollywood as Hollywood we think Hollywood is? Is it as Hollywood? Is it as portrayed? Do our Brits got the wrong feeling?
I don't know if anybody has the wrong feeling. You know, I did 35 years as a director of photography on feature films and TV movies, and then I was a director cameraman on commercials. And you know, when they call it the film industry, I think the key word there is industry, right? It's a business.
It is a business.
And you know, what we see are, you know, the stars, the fame, and all of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, the underlayment of that is millions of people who make movies, just like millions of people build houses and millions of people, you know, work every day to build cars and stuff and things like that. So it's an industry first. You know, and I had a great time in the film industry while I was in it, while I was working. But of course, for any freelancer or any gig worker,
yeah,
you know, my deal was I spent, you know, I don't know, 60 or 70% of my time looking for work and about 30% of my time working. The working was super fun. But I was never an accomplished self-marketer.
Okay.
And in retrospect, I've learned that about myself, but I think that was my downfall in the film industry. I had a great career, but it was just, you know, it's a marketing project for yourself if you're a freelance film worker.
I guess so. But you seem to have been a trainer from the very start. You seem to have been at your heart of your career anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of serendipity in my career, but one of the things was part of the idea of being a freelancer is you have blocks of time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get bored, right? So I had to fill them. So, you know, I took a course at a place called the Maine Photographic Workshops. It's now the Maine Media Workshops. And that led to assisting on a course, and that led to 24 years teaching at the Rockport College and the Maine Media Workshops. And so I taught every aspect of filmmaking, mostly focused on the cinematography and the visual storytelling part. But I really, you know, that was 2.5 decades of that. I wrote a lot of curriculum. I ran all these different courses. I really learned how, you know, to answer questions. I kind of got my teaching thing organized in the film industry. Now, the way that of course happened is I was pretty high level as a director of photography. So I had the content. Yeah. What I didn't have was the methodology to present it in a way that people would retain. And that's what I've really spent these last decades figuring out, is not only how to present my own content to people, but train other people to present their content in a way that does what education is supposed to do, right? Education is classically defined as creating a change in behavior in your students. And that's the first level. The second level of education is retention. Can you get that change to stick? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the key to me and training, is that I've developed over the years this sort of process of training instructors. And I've done it in the film industry, and I've done it in flying, and I've done it in scuba, and I do it in corporate.
Yeah, and you on to explain to our listeners, CoachMeStrong is what I've introduced you as, but that's not your only venture. You've actually grown up with a number of ventures. You've got Training Cycle, I think, which you referred to as kind of your framework baseline. And then I mentioned UTD scuba diving. Now, how did that happen? And I think when we talked previously, you mentioned you've done more than one model, and that was an interesting experience as well.
Yeah, I had a producing partner in the film business who said to me once that, I spent 15 years trying to get into the film industry and then 15 years trying to get out. And so during that second 15 years trying to get out, I was just looking for something really fun to do that had a basis in education. And I didn't really care what it was. I was just looking for something that appealed to me. And I was a scuba instructor, and I loved to dive. And, a guy I had taken some courses with, basically, make a super long story really short, decided to start a training agency, and I joined him as a co-founder of UTD Scuba Diving, Unified Team Diving back then. And we started this training agency, and he brought the scuba intellectual property. I brought a lot of the training methodology, and together we built this sort of global brand that's been running since 2008.
Yeah.
And still going strong. And I bought him out about a year and a half ago. And so I'm running it solely now. And it's an incredible project, right? We have instructors all over the world. We train people at a very high level. We're a boutique agency. And it really feeds my need to be an educator on a global scale. So it was random that it was scuba. I mean, it could have been, car construction, or I don't know, rocket making, or it wouldn't have mattered what the content was. I just wanted something that had an educational bent to it.
So do you believe you could teach or coach, and I must admit that you're an instructor and you're a coach and you're a trainer, but it is one of those words which is very interchangeable, isn't it? But what makes a good educator? Why could you teach anything?
I could teach anything that I have the intellectual property for.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the underlayment of all this is a company I own called the Training Cycle, which basically trains corporate educators.
Yeah.
And the model there is that we're not teaching anybody their own content. We're teaching how to present that content in a way that creates a change in behavior in your students and creates retention. So can I teach anything? Yeah. Can I write curriculum about anything? Yeah, but I need the intellectual property. We call the training cycle IP independent or IP agnostic, right? I don't care what, I mean, I can come into your business and train your trainers, and it doesn't matter a whit what they teach. I mean, occasionally I help people put their content into curriculum format, but if you follow this program I've built in the training cycle, I don't need to do that, because it's got, A, B, C, and D. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to present your content, examples, and exercises, your content, example, and exercises. And, just very briefly, what we find is when someone is good at their content, but not great at presenting it, when it comes time to teaching, particularly when they're teaching teachers, they stop teaching how to teach something and they start teaching the something.
Right.
Does that make sense? So they revert back to what they know without regard for how to present it. And that's what I stop, right? That's where I redirect people. Okay, now you're teaching stuff. You're not teaching how to teach it. So let's revert back to how to teach it. And then later you can put your stuff on top of it and just present it to the people who need to know it.
So technique over topic sort of thing. It's the
Yeah, I don't care
Yeah.
what the content is. I
Yeah.
mean, I care about the content because I learn all sorts of crazy, interesting things when I do this project, because I've gone to crazy, software people and stuff like that. But really, so when I look at scuba, it was great that it was scuba because I love to dive and, I love the
Okay.
community we've built and all, but it was an education project. When I look at Coach Me Strong, which we'll get to in a few minutes, it's
Yeah.
kind of an education project more than it is, although again, it's an industry that I'm obsessed about. So back to your original question, can anybody teach? Yes. Teaching is not an art, it's a craft. There's no natural teacher in the world. That doesn't
Wow.
exist. That's a misnomer. What there are passionate people who know their content, who have been trained to deliver it in a particular way. But there are no natural teachers. People don't just magically stand up and present material that creates this change in behavior and retention. It's just impossible. But you don't want to take some guy who hates their job, who knows the content, and make him a teacher, because not going to happen.
They'd hate that as well.
They'd hate that if they'd hate their students too.
So, as I said, yeah, nice way to start a relationship, isn't it? So you've had these various. We've mentioned Coach Me Strong by name, but not explained what it is yet. But what you said to me, and when we introduced at the very, very beginning, when we first talked to each other, you said that you built up this model, the scuba diving and the other business opportunities you'd done in one model, but the Coach Me Strong was done slightly differently. So perhaps we could introduce Coach Me Strong whilst discussing how the two different types of models that you.
Yeah, that was a conversation we had earlier about why people start businesses.
Yeah.
So we can come back to that. But so Coach Me Strong, I didn't ever expect to do this or plan on doing this, but I guess now we can mention this conversation we had earlier, which is I think there are two reasons to start a company. One is you're super passionate about something, you have an idea, you think it's the best idea in the world, and you're willing to start the company and then ram that idea down the throats of potential clients who may or may not care or want it.
Share your appeal. Yeah.
Or share your passion. So that's model A. Model B is you find a niche and you fill it.
Yeah.
B is not always successful. And if it is, it's super hard. And that was my model with the scuba company. We had a new idea for training in scuba diving. It's a boutique agency, as I said, and we rammed our idea down the throats of people, and it's successful, but it's not lighting the world on fire. Coach Me Strong is a coaching program for primarily people with Parkinson's disease and other neurological challenges.
Yeah.
When the pandemic started, gyms, training programs, exercise programs, all shut down. If you have Parkinson's disease, the only known therapy that actually can slow the progression of the disease is exercise. The medication and all the other stuff they do medically manages symptoms, but it's a progressive neurological disease. Exercise stimulates the loss of the dopamine, the remaining dopamine neurons in your body, and actually slows the progression. So people with Parkinson's particularly have to exercise. We tell our Parkinson's clients that, they basically became professional athletes when they got Parkinson's disease. If you don't exercise, the disease gets worse. It's super clear. It's scientifically based. It's research based. We're not making this up. So, I do a lot of work for the Parkinson's Association. It's just kind of the organization I've chosen as where I'm going to put my community energy.
Yeah.
And I was in a board meeting with the local Parkinson's Association here in San Diego, and one of the doctors said their patients were falling apart because the program's closed, and now they don't know how to exercise because they were going to Zumba and dance and yoga and Pilates and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, look, I've got a coaching model that I built in UTD scuba diving, to train people in this long-term coaching system. I'm an athlete, right? I'm a master's athlete. I race a bike on the track at the national level. And and I've been a coached athlete, an endurance athlete for a long, long time. So I have that piece of it. And I just brought this up and I said, look, I can put these two things together and make a specific exercise coaching program for people with Parkinson's fast. And they were all like, just do it. So within 6 weeks, my co-founder and I, we had a company running, we had a website up, we had a team of coaches, and we had clients coming in. the clients with Parkinson's or other neurological stuff like MS or traumatic brain injury or something, they come in, we assign them to a coach, we give them a little software package that allows them to see their calendar and talk to their coach every day. And the coach sets up daily exercises based on their very specific situation. And so every day they grab their phone and or their computer and they open up their calendar and they see, all right, today I'm doing, a 30-minute walk, a 20-minute bike ride, some strength training, some Pilates, and some stretching. Or I'm doing these balance and mobility exercises, or these handwriting exercises, or speech exercises. Our coaches are also physical therapists and exercise physiologists, people who've worked with Parkinson's and other neurological stuff for a long time. So we found a niche and filled it, and it was like instantly successful. Clients came in, coaches stepped up. We took the coaches and we trained them pretty quickly on how to do structured exercise programming.
Okay.
Which is a very short leap for people who are exercise physiologists and physical therapists and stuff like that. We just showed them how to put a program together that includes enough recovery and stuff like that. And there you go. Business model 2, find a niche and fill it.
Yeah. So it sounds like a great niche to me, and it's the reason I wanted to get you on the show, because we're kind of intrigued as to people are a part of that all important triangle of planet, people, and prosperity. And obviously so many businesses focus on the profit, perhaps not so much on the people. And definitely we've had struggles with people focusing on the planet. So yeah, the people subject really appealed to me as to, and Parkinson's is a great example, because I've got a family member, my brother, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Can't remember when, probably 5 years ago now. Ambled into his 60s and then got diagnosed. And I'd never really thought about it. It's not a disease that had crossed my bowels before. But you mentioned dopamine. Why is Parkinson's such a specific niche? Why has it got such a specific niche? Is it just because exercise is the only route to slowing it down?
Exercise right now is the only therapy that, I think I said this right, that we know that slows progression.
Right.
Medication and other, deep brain stimulators and all this other stuff manage symptoms.
So they kind of suppress the issue at hand. Particularly the dopamine levels are dropping off.
Yeah, particularly the obvious symptoms of tremor and dyskinesia and freezing of gait and all these other symptoms of Parkinson's. But long-term exercise, for some reason, and oddly, very specifically the bicycle, is a really, really important piece of managing Parkinson's disease. So, when Parkinson's first was discovered, people were told to stay in bed and they were dead in 3 years. And now here we are decades and decades later, and people are told to go out and exercise as much as they possibly can manage. And now Parkinson's is not a life shortener. You can live a very long and fruitful life with Parkinson's disease, managing symptoms with medication and managing progression with exercise. So, we fill that need for people, and, we market a lot to movement disorder doctors. And our sort of tagline for that is, you tell your patients they have to exercise, but we tell them how. Because if we go to somebody who's never exercised regularly and we say, okay, bang, you've got Parkinson's disease, you have to go exercise every day. Well, they go for a 20-minute walk, but it's not enough. And it's not structured, and it doesn't meet the whole body, and it doesn't help, strength and mobility and aerobic and anaerobic and balance and flexibility and all of the other things that are important to creating a full rounded exercise program.
Yeah, and obviously you speak with considerable confidence and gravitas with regards to what should be in a good all-round program, says the guy who'd probably just go for a long walk for his exercise and not that full extent of everything. But is that something that you have to address with people when they first join your programs? Is what kind of exercise that they should be adopting, perhaps stretching them into areas that they previously have shied away from because they never fancy getting into a Pilates group or getting on a bike?
We start with what they like. We start
Okay.
with what our clients like. We have a big, long intake form. And, do you have gym equipment at home? Do you like to bike? Do you like to hike? Do you like to run? Do you like to sit on the couch? What do you like to do? And from that, we develop the program. If someone says, man, I just do not like cycling. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to get cycling,
No.
and then we may slowly drag you toward it, if it seems appropriate,
Kicking and
but we
screaming.
want people to be successful, especially at the get-go,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning. So we design exercise programming around, it starts around what you like. Now, it's gotten a little bit easier, at least in California, things are opening up, right? So there are programs starting, gyms are starting, community programs are starting. It makes it easier for us because we can program that stuff in. But, we design the program around being locked in your house. So, the
Yeah.
relaxing of restrictions is actually making it easier for us and easier for our clients. They're not leaving because they can now go to a dance class. They're seeing the value in staying in because we program the dance class,
In.
next to a hard day of weights, next to a recovery day, next to a day on the butt. So we build a structured program for them. So it's been really good in that vein.
Do you have a trouble with controlling people's enthusiasm? They suddenly perhaps they might get a burst of, feel like they're improving or something, and then they overrun themselves, or is that you always have to drag people back from going nuts?
We usually have the opposite problem of trying to prod people into
Get
actually
them
doing
going.
something, because many of these people have not exercised effectively in their life. And the other thing that the coaches do is the coaches become, what we call an accountability partner, because in a Parkinson's situation, often there's a care partner, a spouse or somebody, and
Yeah.
that care partner always knows exercise is important. Lethargy is a symptom of Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So what happens is the care partner ends up nagging the person with Parkinson's to
Mm.
exercise. Like, did you walk? Did you do your weights? Did you? What we try to set it up in a family that our coaches become that accountability partner, and we take on that nagging role. So
Ah.
sometimes we call ourselves the anti-nagging company. One of the side effects, we didn't know what happens, and I think this is whenever you start a company quickly, you find benefits you didn't know were going to happen, is that acceptance of accountability on the coach and off of the care partner has actually opened up space in people's relationships to have a better relationship with their care partner, because they've taken a big pile of nagging off the table. So that's been a really interesting benefit that we had no idea was going to happen.
That is fascinating, and I think maybe you've touched on a point there. Is that what the familiar external view of somebody with Parkinson's is a tremored hand or perhaps a knee or something like that, but that's not it, is it? That's not the whole gamut of
No.
things that can happen to people. And I think you mentioned the apathy, and I saw depression and sleep behaviors, and even down to a loss of sense of smell and other cognitive things, possibly on top of the tremors and the um, slowness of movements, maybe, and stiffness. So, we shouldn't just assume because people aren't tremoring that they haven't got Parkinson's, but I suppose it's
because if they're well managed, by a really solid movement disorder neurologist, people go a long time suppressing symptoms with medication, and there are lots of people you can't tell have Parkinson's, and a lot of people hide it for a very long time also. But it is progressive. Eventually it's going to start to show its kind of nasty head. What we want to do is make that as far away as possible and get these, especially newly diagnosed people, to really embrace a lifestyle of exercise. A lot of what we do in Coach Me Strong is training people on how they're going to do their exercise program for the rest of their life. And some people leave after a number of months or whatever and say, thank you, now I know how to do it. I don't need to pay you anymore. And we're like, great, awesome, another success story.
Yeah.
So either way it goes. So we've had people in from the beginning, and we've had people who come in for 2 months, 3 months, and say thanks and step out. Uh, and I think it's important that, we create lifestyle changes for people.
Brilliant. So one of the things you mentioned there is that people don't kind of bring Parkinson's, their condition, into the open, and it reminded me of a conversation I heard recently on the radio. It was an American actress that had hidden a cancer that she had while she was filming, funnily enough, or bizarrely enough, a film about somebody who had cancer and hid it. But is that, I mean, is it an American thing, or are people scared to come forward with serious medical conditions or chronic medical conditions to their employer and such like?
I don't know if I can answer that one.
No, fair enough.
Russell, I mean, I don't really know. I think everybody's different. I mean, I've had people call me up and say, hey, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's last week, and my doctor said I should call you to learn how to exercise. Just puts it on the table. And then we've had other people who, are really busy keeping it under wraps.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I have to assume it's the culture, in that situation, it's likely the culture of the employer.
Yeah.
That manages it. I think more than the person. I mean, if you work in a place that's open and welcoming and interested in helping you, and you've got an HR department that's supportive, I think there's less pressure to think, oh my God, they're going to see me shake twice, and I'm going to take an extra 5 minutes to write an email, and they're going to fire me. So I think it's about the culture of the employer more than it is about the individual.
Okay. I mean, because obviously your health systems and our health systems are somewhat different. Your laws,
a little.
a little. I mean, obviously, again, we discussed this in the preamble, wasn't it? That our NHS is a really great place to deal with an acute issue. You'd be seen in an accident emergency at no charge. But when it comes to chronic conditions and long-term conditions, the US way seems to be far more adaptive, far more mature, far more useful.
Well, that's another podcast, right? Because we have a private insurance system in the US. So
yeah,
we can talk about that for
forever.
And it's I don't think it's probably not a good conversation to open that door on now.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll close that particular political.
I mean, look, we have a vision of Europe that is either A or B, right? It's either great or it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But those same people who think it's terrifying, are paying for insurance out of their pocket. So
yeah, and I think that goes both ways. Really, we look across the pond and go, wow, that seems expensive. We're primarily a business podcast, and so we always look at things as to how business is. Perhaps you mentioned that your primary introduction to a patient would be through a primary healthcare professional who would say, hey, you've got Parkinson's, go speak to CoachMeStrong. Do you think there's space in the world for businesses or business leaders, business managers, good HR departments to take a more active stance with their employees who might be suffering from Parkinson's?
I think there's a place for businesses and good HR departments to take a stance for their whole population of employees, regardless of the underlying conditions.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, getting people exercising, training, and condoning it makes places more productive.
Yeah.
I mean, I did my bike ride early this morning, right? I have a big day of work in front of me. And, it's just like, grab the day. Right.
Yeah.
I find that when I leave this till, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm dragging through the day. I can't wait to get on the bike. And then I'm like, oh, wide awake, let's have an evening. Right. So, when I'm on long-term projects and things like that, when I was making movies and stuff, or on a big long scuba course or something, I would always try to get some training in either in the morning or midday. And it just made everything else better. So yeah, I think any company can benefit from this. And normally in the US, what happens is people, HR departments make a gym available or make something
Yeah.
like that, or bring in a yoga teacher. What we do for businesses is a little bit different because we offer this individual coaching program. So a
Yeah.
business can come into Coach Me Strong and say, look, I want to do a contract for 30 people.
Yeah.
And we're like, awesome, we'll set you up, and, if people turn out to have underlying conditions that they want to talk about with us, we can give them to a specialist in that realm, right? Now, the obvious thing is if you have orthopedic stuff going on, right? If your hips or your knees or something is not working right, certainly then we have physical therapists who are coaches who do both, and they're the people. Our goal is never to get somebody injured, right? Because of course, if you're injured, you're screwed twice, right? One is you're injured, and that's not good. And two is you can't train, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So we work really carefully not to let anybody get injured. So from a corporate standpoint, yeah, I mean, it becomes a really valuable corporate benefit for people who want to develop into a training program, even if it's for a matter of months to, like I said, to learn how to do it, or it's somebody who just wants a coach for long term. All of that is manageable. And I think I have not found productivity studies and research.
No.
It must be out there on organized exercise planning.
I think that there are examples of exceptional companies that have exceptional plans. Obviously, I've got my primary experiences in the UK, where there are some ones which got these really good programs and support people through these range of life events that might occur, including getting a chronic or a serious condition like Parkinson's disease or any other neurological condition. And they immediately support those people and elongate their working life and make their working life more productive whilst they're still with them. And I think that's something that we should be encouraging businesses to do, really.
Right. But Russell, that's reactive, not proactive.
Which is true enough.
And that's, I think, where the gap is, right? It's reactive therapies is wonderful, right? You need psychological help, you need emotional support, you need something because of something happening. Great. I love a company that makes that available. Proactive, it's so much harder to put an ROI on proactive.
Oh, it's almost impossible.
How do you do it, right? How do you say, all right, here's a company, I've got 250 employees, I'm going to offer an exercise coaching program to anybody who wants it. How do you measure productivity? How are you, it's a monthly fee, right?
Yeah.
And we're currently 149 US a month. How do you put an ROI on that $149?
Yeah.
Which is whatever it is in euros, 130 euros. So I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if there is an answer other than, common sense says, well, if I get people training and exercising and more fit, first of all, they're going to take less sick days.
Yeah.
They're going to overall feel better. They're going to be more excited about showing up. We're going to make some space in the day for them to go train or go to a gym or put up a little exercise room someplace in a conference room.
Yeah.
Make it part of the culture. And then I think you've got something that is it's still difficult to track.
Well, I mean, there are many studies about the well-being, how looking after your physical fitness is great for your well-being and mental health and any range of other is clear evidence that can make a difference. So I can understand.
How do you stick an ROI on it? That's my question.
I don't know.
How do you put on a return of investment? I don't know the answer to that one.
No. Okay. Well, we won't try and answer that one either then.
Well, let's ask your listeners. How do you stick an ROI on top of an exercise training program inside of a corporation?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. Can you find the stats? Can you give us some evidence? That'd be brilliant.
Some evidence, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll post that question as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're San Diego, California, long way away from me. We're 8 hours difference, I think we are at the moment.
8 or 9, something like
8 or 9 hours. Can I could I use your services here?
Yeah, and we should talk to your brother also.
Yeah.
So it's an online based program. the coaches live everywhere, right? We have a couple of coaches in San Diego, one's in Texas, one's in Iowa, one's in Georgia, one's in Madrid, Spain. They're everywhere. It doesn't matter, right? We build out our program using an online, third-party online calendar. They communicate this. The guys who are working with our guy in Spain, they just work out the time zone. It's no big deal. My personal coach, using the same system, just in a different company for the bike, lives in Colorado. I see her, if I'm lucky, once a year, but I talk to her every day. So that communications thing is never a problem, and region is not a problem. None of that. I mean, it's designed as a scalable global program.
So your clients get a daily or very, very regular contact with a coach, with somebody to...
Yeah, daily. Yeah, we ask for it. We want it. So at the end, so the way it works is there's a calendar. It's again, it's a third-party app. You can look it up. It's called Today's Plan. It's awesome. Yeah. And so everybody gets an account on this calendar. Every week, the coach loads the following week of workouts. So usually around Friday, they put up the next week. And then every day, the client just opens up the calendar, either on a browser or on a phone or an iPad. And there are the list of exercises for that day. And then they mark them off as completed. This is part of the accountability thing. So when you see them, they're red. Each little bar is red. Yeah. When you mark them off, they go green. So we have some OCD clients who just love to see all the green. We don't care what the driver is to make you adhere. We just want you to adhere. Then at the end of the program of the day, the daily, they send their coach a note. It went great. It was hard. This one was tricky. I need more of this. I need less of this. And then the coach responds to that. So they're talking to the coach daily. It's an interesting model because it works. This little bit of texting is all you really need to keep that relationship tight. Yeah. So the coaches get to know their clients. Sometimes they become friends with their clients. Sometimes they see their clients in person, but our model is that they work with them online. Whenever they need to pick up the phone and call them, they call them. During the initial assessment, they try to do, recently it's all been on internet. So a Zoom or some kind of web conference meeting, so they can see if they're challenged by symptoms or something else. But, we get a pretty good picture of what people are dealing with when they come in. It's pretty easy to assign a coach. So global, doesn't matter.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, after I last talked to you, I kind of went away going, really should do some more exercise.
Well, let me just mention that too, right? That this is not a program for people with Parkinson's. This is an exercise training program for anybody who wants to get stronger, feel better, right? So we have three constituencies: the Parkinson's thing I mentioned, the other neurological stuff I mentioned. But our third constituency is anybody who wants to exercise. We have some of the care partners come in, some just friends come in, some people we know come in. But fundamentally, we're calling that group Gen OW. There was Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, silent generation. So we named that constituency Gen OW for Generation Older Wiser. So that's the constituency that I really love.
I like the wiser bit. I'm not too sure if I'm happy with the older bit.
Well, the older thing is inevitable. The wiser thing might be a choice, but so anybody who steps up and says, look, I don't have a solid exercise program and I don't know how to create one. Yeah. We take those clients in, and again, some of them stay for a short period of time and learn how to do it on their own. Some of them stay for a long time because they like guidance. Like, I've been coached for well over 10 years now without a break by various coaches, depending upon what my bent is at the moment. And I am 100% more effective on the bike when someone tells me what to do, who knows how to make me stronger.
So were you coached for this morning session? You said you've been out on the bike this morning? Yeah.
No, it was a ball buster. It was
just give me some idea of what you've done in your sunny San Diego.
I did 6 repeats on a local hill here, going at basically my VO2 max, short efforts as hard as I can go. Okay. Scheduled, high, higher, highest, high, higher, highest, and so on. So structured training. I know the power numbers, the wattages, and I went out and I rode for an hour and a half doing hill repeats.
Wow.
But
So
I do that every day. I do something like that every day. And then, but the cool thing is she's brilliant, my coach,
right.
because we go to the limit and then we recover. We go to the limit and then we recover. Exercise doesn't make you stronger during the exercise. It makes you stronger in the recovery. Exercise on a very micro level injures the muscles. But
Yeah.
when they heal, your body heals stronger, right? More capillaries, more blood volume, more mitochondria, stronger, better, bigger. So it's the recovery time is really important. So I generally do like a 3-day hard block with a rest day or recovery day, and then a moderate block, and then a recovery day, then a hard block. And that's how we set up our clients in Coach Me Strong also is, we use that same model. We don't give somebody 3 days of strength training in a row
No.
because it just breaks you down.
Yeah. Variety is the spice of life, I suppose, on that basis.
Structured variety is the
Structured variety. Yeah, planned variety. Yes.
Planned variety.
Thank you for correcting my other glib analogies and phrases.
Well,
yeah.
no, your 400-year-old meme, as we have to change it.
It's true enough.
It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, we always fall back to these old wife tales or whatever we're allowed to call them nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, talking of things that we can do and things that we should be doing. What would be, if there was one thing you would get anybody or you would encourage anybody to do, what would it be?
Well, I mean, my life is packaged around the bicycle, right? All the other things I do, there's still an hour and a half or 2 hours a day where I'm on the bike. So, all I can say to people is at whatever level of fitness you have now, it can be better. It can be stronger. You can feel better. So, of course it's self-serving because I own the company that does this, but get a coach and get training. And if you do it either to get daily guidance for a long period of time or do it to learn how to do it yourself. Both of those models are viable. So you don't have to look at a long-term financial hit for months and months and months. Make a 3-month commitment or a 4-month commitment, learn how to do this, and then decide after 3 or 4 months if you want the monthly guidance for a long period of time, or if you've learned enough to do it on your own. Or if you need the accountability, then pay for the accountability.
Yeah, I do love that concept or that side benefit, extra benefit of being able to take a bit of the pressure off the carer.
Yeah.
The carer and the supporter and the one that's right next to them, having to badger them and releasing them from that pressure I can imagine that being absolutely amazing from a carer's perspective and totally unexpected.
It was. And that's, I think unexpected benefits are some of the most fun in any company.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're a great selling point as well.
Yeah.
So have you got a recommendation that you would poke us to? You mentioned a book that you said turned your life around or changed your life.
Oh yeah, I dug it out right before we started recording. So this doesn't have anything to do, well, it does have to do with Coach Me Strong, but many years ago, and I have it here, the founder and the owner of the Main Media Workshops gave all of his instructors this little book called Mastery by George Leonard. And it was written, I don't know how many years ago, in the 70s, I believe. But he talks about the master's journey. And there are many elements of that in this book that have, in various levels, changed my life. How we train, how we manage plateaus, all of that. But really, the thing that I got out of that more than anything else was that the master's journey culminates with teaching, right? If you look at a journey in anything you're good at, be it business or the bicycle or flying or scuba diving or filmmaking or the things I've done, the process is discovery. Oh, that's cool. Some training, so you stay alive or stay uninjured. Practice. Now, this practice could be 3 weeks or 3 decades, whatever. And then teaching. And the culmination of any journey, I think, is when you can teach it. Now, in the martial arts, they say when you get your black belt, that's the day you start learning. And I think it's the same thing with any journey in any industry or any program or anything you're doing, the day you start teaching is the day you start learning. You know, we have another saying that says, when the student learns 10 things, the teacher learns 100. So this little book on mastery and a lot of the other work and research I've done over my life has really led me to a point where it's the teaching that brings you to that point of such a deep understanding of something. I mean, I all that years and years of teaching in the film industry just made me a better cinematographer and a better director. All these years of teaching scuba made me a better scuba diving. The years of teaching flying made me a better pilot. The years of being coached on a bike and helping others.
You teach flying as well?
Yeah, that's another piece, but
you have a fair bit of IP attached to.
Well, I mean, these are hobbies that have turned into really,
because you can teach, you're able to teach people.
Yeah, and I take these journeys. I take the journeys kind of seriously. It's like, if I'm going to get good at something, let me just get good at it. I don't really dabble, right? I mean, really, in my life, right? Filmmaking, flying, scuba, bicycle.
Yeah.
Right. It's been 4 things. I'm in my 60s. It's not like I'm jack of everything, master of nothing. It's like, I've taken these 4 elements and really progressed them to a point where I feel very successful at them. Right. I'm not currently flying, but I am currently racing my bike at the national level. So, things go in and out. I get bored. I change, things like that. But that journey that I've taken now 4 or maybe 5 times in my life has always culminated with teaching. It's not fully altruistic because I get so much back.
You get, and I get that completely. Every time I learn something, I try and, even in those small snippets, as if you learn something, it settles in if you can teach it and explain it, and then you get that feedback, you get that niche feedback, you get that. You get that perspective, that different point of view, that problem that you hadn't ever thought of or considered that you need to address. Yeah,
questions come in from left field. You have no idea that question ever existed. No. But now, with your level of experience through discovery, training, and practice, you get to figure out how to explain that to somebody, whatever that question is.
Yeah.
And you find out the road to that piece, right? That's why teaching is so valuable, because then you own that also.
Yeah.
You discover it, you own it. We go back to the training cycle. We teach you how to present it so the student can retain it. And now all of a sudden you both win.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So Mastery is a book definitely to be.
The author is George Leonard.
George Leonard. Thank you. Yeah. We'll put notes to that on the show page. Definitely. So just to top the show off, I just in the last few minutes that we have on your busy day as you're starting it and I'm ending it, I've just got some facts or fakes to test you with.
Okay.
All in the Parkinson's kind of arena. So is this a fact or a fake, Jeff? Under 15% of Parkinson's cases have a genetic link. The rest are all classified as sporadic. Is that a fact or a fake? Under 50%.
Well, sporadic is see, there's no simple answer to these. I think it's probably true, with a caveat that sporadic is now being discovered. They're just, researchers are discovering regions for Parkinson's, and a lot of it is environmental and things like that. So I would say that number is probably true, but the terminology you're using is probably not true.
Ooh, that came from Parkinsons.org.
Okay.
So that's the American. I went for the American.
No. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
You're right. You're right. 15%. But it was quite interesting because one of the things when I had when my brother was diagnosed, he's significantly older than me, as I like to say. He's 14 years older than me. But you kind of go, am I now lined up for that, or is his sedentary way of living what's caused that issue, and perhaps I should learn from that instead?
There is in California a little band of Parkinson's that is higher concentration, and it's an agrarian area of California.
Agrarian? Oh, agricultural.
Agricultural. So there is starting to now be some correlation between the supporting chemicals and the poisons that we put on our food and our crops and Parkinson's. But this is very new research. I mean,
and I saw something similar on Alzheimer's, which of course is another neurological disease, which is probably the only one. I think it was the only one killer. Was the only it's the only one that beats Parkinson's in terms of diagnoses and those suffering from the condition. Number 2, diagnosis of Parkinson's disease is usually made by a series of blood tests. Is that a fact or a fake?
No, that's fake. It's usually made by symptom analysis and a thing called a DAT scan.
Correct. I was fascinated by this. There is no diagnostic test. It is really a set of observations and as you say, some good tests, but over a period of time to see how it's progressing as well.
One interesting piece of that is, we all have dopamine in our brains, and that's what helps us move, and that's why dopamine deficiencies cause the movement disorder. By the time the obvious external symptoms of Parkinson's do show up, something like 80% of the usable dopamine in your brain has already died.
Oh.
So you're already this is why people, when they get diagnosed with Parkinson's, look back 10 years and say, oh, I had this and I had this. I lost my sense of smell and I was depressed. I had no idea why. And now I'm shaking. And now all of a sudden, well, it's because the dopamine the death of the dopamine neurons has progressed to this point. And this is why we want to get people exercising, because that's what you find out so late in the process, that we have to do whatever we can to protect people from getting worse.
Yeah. And the loss of taste and smell was a fascinating thing as well.
Smell. That's one of the first ones.
Okay. Final one then. You've already won. So this is just there are just under 500,000 Americans and 5 million people worldwide living with Parkinson's disease. Is that a fact or a fake?
I have no idea.
No? Do you want to have a stab?
I don't, because it changes all the time. We know that the diagnosis of Parkinson's is increasing exponentially. So I don't know what the hard numbers are. And I can't even begin to guess.
Okay.
What'd you say? 500,000 in the US?
500,000 Americans, 5 million people worldwide.
Maybe. How about maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know if anybody knows the numbers, because so many people hide it, right?
Well, and there is it, and it is a very round number. That the fact that I got again off the one of the Parkinson's org sites, that there are nearly 1 million Americans. So I halved the figure that they quoted, and 10 million people living worldwide with it, and they reckon around 60,000 people in the US are diagnosed every year.
So that number we've heard as a viable number, but we've also heard that that's going to increase.
Well, if there is any link to environmental conditions, I'm sure that's or it's environmental situations, then that could definitely be the case, as our environment's not getting any better, and we're not getting much better at looking after our environment either.
No, except our population is living longer, so it gives the body more time to actually demonstrate these symptoms. Where
that's true enough.
When we all died at 55, you might have had Parkinson's, but it didn't kill enough dopamine to actually get you shaking.
No.
So we don't know. I mean, those kind of numbers. We don't even know how many people have Parkinson's in San Diego, and this is
I suppose that's kind of in truth. One, if people haven't come forward with diagnosis, or they're hiding it, but then if they have been diagnosed, presumably that's where the Parkinson's organizations are getting their numbers from. But that would suggest there's like 1 in 330. Well, you got 331 million people in America, so 1 in 331 people have potentially got Parkinson's.
I wouldn't hesitate to say I wouldn't hesitate to say that's incorrect.
Yeah, no, it could be. I mean, I
live in a world.
My guerrilla maths that worked. That was more than anything.
I've got I live in a world where I have 100 friends with Parkinson's. So what do I know? I mean, my vision of it is all skewed because I know so many people with this disease, but I also know, athletes and people who are training and people with other neurological. I mean, we just know people, right? So whoever's in your niche. I know 200 cyclists in San Diego. That's random.
Yep. It would be.
You know?
And I know none. Oh, I know one now.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Come on over. We'll get you a bike.
That'll be good fun. Maybe I might take you up on that when we're actually allowed to move between countries.
Yeah, no, for
and
sure.
yeah, and if I feel ecologically appropriate to do so as well. Maybe I'll swim there. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe
not. Jeff, it's been a delight talking to you. Very enlightening, because and a shot in the arm for me to perhaps shake myself down, and maybe I should be looking at dabbing into your services myself.
You know, I'll tell you, Russell, what we tell everybody else, right? Commit to 3 months, right?
Yeah.
It's $49 to get going. It's $149 a month. You're talking under $500. Just commit to 3 months and try it, and see how you do.
Yeah.
You know, is $500 worth feeling better, getting stronger, or not?
And longevity and healthiness, you know.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. And you know, it's so interesting, right? When athletes get injured, they heal really fast, right?
Yeah.
Because the body supports, a fit body really supports healing. So the same thing is true when people get sick.
Yeah.
Athletes recover quickly.
Yeah. Can't deny that logic at all. So on that piece of encouragement, I will thank you very much, Jeff, for joining me on the Green Elephant Show.
Oh, it's been awesome to be here. Great to talk with you, Russell.
We really hope that you found this insight into another Better Business both informative and entertaining. So make sure you don't miss any of our other chats with other Better Businesses by subscribing to our podcast, available on all good providers, or on the Green Elephant YouTube channel. And please don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions, comments or suggestions on the show, please do get in touch. You can email us, studio@greenelephant.show, or visit our website, greenelephant.show, or find us across social @greenelipod. Join us next time, and we hope you have a sustainable week.